Man, that was bananas.
That
Yeah, so
was hilarious.
you gotta peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, so Chris is joining us in a second. I just before we went live, Carlos was talking business with one of his clients or whatever, and he didn't know he was not muted. So I'm listening to him, and he's basically like, "Bro, fuck this stupid Finance Junkies podcast. I gotta do this shit. I don't have time for this shit. I don't want to even do this." And I'm over here listening to him just shit on this podcast. 66 people are here in 22 seconds, and
Yeah,
you're
I'm like,
here
I got
shitting
this
on the podcast.
fucking guy here who says he's all legit.
he says he wants to build a dope podcast, and he's wasting my hour every time at night.
Yeah, I mean, just to clear the record, that's not true. You did hear me doing business, but there was a fellow editor. We're working on this episode, and it's just trying to get this thing out. Oh man,
yeah, Carlos didn't say any of that, but it was cool because he was talking about like, yeah, 334, you got to replace this part, blah 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 blah. And I was like, damn, this is like a master editor, just like going to work, getting business done, talking about how a movie. Bro, you haven't told the audience like some of the big names you've worked for. I don't know if you want to name drop any, but like in the comedy space, like you've worked.
Yeah,
some guys. If you want to drop like, it, you know, there's.
I mean, I've reluctantly become like the comedy guy. Like I didn't, as you guys can all tell, I'm not that funny in real life. So I don't know how I get these gigs. But yeah, like if any of you heard like the new Louis C.K. special that came out, I just finished that. I'm working on one for another guy. I can't actually say the name yet because he hasn't dropped it. But I did the Robert Kelly special. I did Chris D'Elia's on Netflix. I did Tom Segura. I did the last 3 Joe Rogans.
Bro, these are huge names: Tom Segura, Chris D'Elia, and Joe Rogan.
Bro,
yeah,
tickets. Hook us up, Carlos. Come on, man.
I mean, if you come to LA, a lot of times they will come out here. Like I went to the last Louis special that he just launched live at the Dolby. I was there. I was in the crowd for the second show. So
you were recording, or you just got like tickets?
Recording, bro. I was sitting there chilling with a drink. What are you doing? I was gonna edit that thing. I was sitting there with a buddy of mine. We just sat there and hung out, and then got to chill with him backstage. You know who else I met that day? I met Sam Harris that day.
Really?
Nice. Yeah, he was just hanging out in the back room.
What did you say to him?
Like, I don't think people knew who he really was. Like, everyone was kind of focused on Louis, but I was with my buddy. I was like, you know who the fuck that is right there? And he's like, no. I was like, that's fucking Sam Harris. And so whenever it was all done and everything was done, I just gave him like the look, like I knew who he was. And as he was leaving, I was just like, yo, big fan of yours. I've watched a lot. I've watched almost everything that I can find of you on YouTube. And I was like, I don't agree with a lot of what you say, but it always makes me think. And he was like, thanks. I really appreciate it.
I watched Sam Harris debate Jordan Peterson on the existence of God for 8 hours. I watched every fucking syllable of that debate because I really wanted to know, and it was a great debate. It was great. It was good.
Well, then what did you guys think of the one that he did with Ben Affleck on Bill Maher on Islam?
I mean, the one where I was gonna say the one where he called it Islam. I mean,
that's kind of where he got a lot of hate for that.
You know, each person's gonna have an opinion. I think being able to express your opinion, no matter how stupid it is a fundamental right everyone should have. I mean, the only thing that I would say is that the points that Sam Harris made were actually kind of relevant, saying, look, there are a certain group of people in a majority of people that are very peaceful, but there are a certain group of people that have really, really strong views that can lend really negatively to our society. You know, if we put them in our context, like that's one of the things
what gets amplified. So you start to think that that's the whole group.
Now, one of the things is like, I would say, you know, based on my experiences,
I'm sorry. I just read Sendit's comment about you, and it's so funny.
Chris is struggling to sit down. Yeah, it's not that.
He's like, "What's up, guys?"
Like,
I'm sorry.
There's junk in my trunk.
No, it's actually because the right side of my stomach's been hurting for like a few weeks. I'm hoping it's not pancreatitis, but we'll see. We'll see.
Put some put options on your pancreas.
I need to get on Weight Watchers, bro. Weight Watchers. No, I just, you know what it is. I used to think that, you know what, the American way is the right way. Everyone should have democracy. Everyone should have freedom. You know, our way is the right way. And as I got older, I'm just like, look, man, if countries and people want to be fucking shitty, that's on them. Like us going to those countries, dictating how they should run their countries, it's not good for them, nor is it good for us, because all we're doing is antagonizing a certain group of people, and then we end up looking like the bad guys. So to me, I would say when I was earlier in my 20s, I was a lot more idealistic. I would be like, yeah, man, we should America. And now I'm just like, why are we getting involved? Yeah, why are we getting involved in another fucking country's conflict again? Except for the Ukraine thing. I think the US's involvement in the Ukraine is actually justified. Because if we don't
really?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yo, you heard what Trump said yesterday on Fox? Trump was like,
what do you say?
Trump was like,
I haven't seen that yet. I wanted to see.
Bro, it was the funniest shit. He was like, I told Putin and
can you do it in Trump's voice though?
I should just pull up the clip, but he was just like, I told
Putin, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest negotiator. If I was there, it never would have happened.
No, he literally was like, he told Putin, don't do anything to Ukraine, and he told Xi Jinping, don't do anything to Taiwan, and then he said, I told them what would happen if they do something, and then Xi Jinping and Putin, Xi Jinping was like, you'll never do that, and he's like, I swear to God, I'll do it.
Yeah,
and then he told Putin was like, you'll never do it. He was like, I swear to God, I will do it. And I don't know if he's talking about a nuke, but he's talking about something where Xi Jinping and Putin laughed at him in their private meetings for saying he would do that, but his argument was like they didn't do shit.
Well, no, it's true. No one wants to mess around with the crazy dude. Like, think about it this way: if you're on a bus and you have the crazy dude that's just like crazy, like just going at everyone, that's the last person you want to antagonize. But if it's a proper, polite person that's like, "Hi, excuse me, can you not do that?" People fucking confront them. But if you have a crazy dude just sitting there, no one fucks with the crazy guy. So that's
right, like the person that's punching themselves in the face, no one wants to punch in the face.
Yeah.
Trump might have been crazy enough to be like, I will fucking nuke you guys if you do something. And that's why they laughed at him saying, you'll never do that. And he was like, I swear to God, I will do it.
You know what? I don't think he would threaten that. Number one, it's mutually assured destruction.
But what do you think he threatened them with? And that
I don't know. I don't know what he could threaten them with because
sanctions is not enough, right? It's got to be something
sanctions
big.
Is not enough. It's probably something that's on a level that's not public.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say, I believe it or not.
He's like, I'm going to send Stormy Daniels your way and get you out of office. I think I'll bury you in her boobies.
One of the things about Trump is that he puts on this persona to let people kind of like think that he's dumber than he actually is. I think he's a highly intelligent person that a lot of people like. And that's what he says too. I think in the book that he had, it's like, let the other person think you're dumb, because that way, when you're doing your negotiating, you can tear them apart, because they think they're negotiating with a clown, but he knows what he's trying to get. And eventually he ends up doing right. But I mean, think about it this way. In the last almost like 30, 40 years, he's the one president who hasn't attacked anyone, who didn't go into any other conflicts.
I think that's one of the 33. I don't know if you ever read the book, The 33 Strategies of War. I think that's one of the strategies. Is like, don't reveal how intelligent you really are.
Yeah.
Yo, we have to see this clip from Andrew Schultz talking about Trump. This is gold today. You might have seen it already, Chris, but this is gold.
I didn't see this. No audio.
Real quick, let me change.
Jay Kim is right. That sanctions only hurt the common people. It doesn't really affect the elites. It's like a trade war. A trade war didn't really hurt anyone except the American consumer.
Why is the audio not working?
Because at the bottom right, you see
Palantir sponsored
right
this
there, right there. Click on that. Nope.
Oh,
right there. There you go.
Gotcha.
I miss Trump, man. Not like that. Calm down, QAnon. Fucking. It's a comedy special, not a Cracker Barrel. Relax, lady. Fucking. Was that you, Indian girl? Oh shit! I was about to say, you putting a non in QAnon for sure, right there. Can we just be honest? It was entertaining as fuck. Like for 4 years, he had our group chats on fire. It was unbelievable. You don't miss those texts like in the middle of the night from your boy, like, yo, turn on the news. He's making fun of crippled people. You're like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. He's the president of the United States of America. It's not me watching Breaking Bad. There's no way he's making fun of crippled people. You turn on the news. Full T-Rex, dog. Cocked his shit, dropped it, beating his chest like Matthew McConaughey, bro. It was every week. You remember that shit? Yo, turn on the news, he's shooting paper towels at Puerto Ricans. You're like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. This is impossible. Okay, they just had a hurricane. They're sitting in 4 feet of water. There's no way he went down there and shot the paper towels at these poor Puerto Ricans. You turn on the news, jab step, fade away.
kind of true.
How do you guys do you think it was the most entertaining 4 years of your life, or were you kind of scared every day to see what he was going to say? Like, were you more scared, or
I wasn't actually scared. I mean, I think he was actually really good for markets, right? I mean, in terms of selfishly speaking, he was actually really good for markets, like the deregulation. And he was, I mean, look, they're all in bed with Wall Street, but he was definitely kinder to them. But I think we forgot what it was like to not be at war. I think it was the biggest thing that I was happy with, is that we just didn't have any conflicts like that around the world. And there was a big thing about it, like, oh, you don't talk to dictators, you don't talk to Putin, you don't talk to Kim Jong-un, but we didn't have this situation that we've got right now.
I mean, the dude actually went to North Korea and said, "Look, I'm going to meet the guy. I don't give a shit." He went to
calls
the
him
DMZ.
Rocket Man, like, to his face. He calls him Little Rocket Man, like. I don't know. I get, but that's just the language that
I think what was funny is he'd be in the background. He's like, "We got to sanction China," and it's like, "I'm gonna talk to my friend Z." I was like, "Wait, you just said that he was an asshole, and then on the other hand, you're like, my friend Z. Like, what the hell?" You know? So
he's right. When he was talking about, like, they're, we're going to tax them, or they're not paying their fair share. Like, I'm going to tax everything from China. It's like, I could see them having a conversation, and like after the fact, it's like, look, I was just saying that. Like, let's talk business. We both have to put on a certain.
It's because Trump knows television, bro. He knows television so well, and he played the media so great by just saying whatever he wanted to say. But then when it came down to business, he got some shit done, when it comes down to
he got a lot done. He got a lot done.
Circling back to the front of the conversation before you came on, Chris, Amit was having me talk about some of the work that I've done. I actually did a season of Celebrity Apprentice, but I was on the show. I wasn't editing it.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So, like,
are there clips of this we can see?
Look up season 4 with Joan Rivers. The year that she won, I was on that. So at the time, the format was the second or third episode of every season. The teams would get together and they would create a viral video for a company, and they had to make a video that was like viral. And then the heads of the company would come in and be like on the board with Trump, and they would vote for whose was the best. So the one that they were doing, and it was like Khloe Kardashian. It was Herschel.
Hey, Charles, what was the premise? I never watched it. What was the premise of Celebrity Apprentice? Why was it such a successful show?
So it was like a bunch of celebrities get together and have to work together as a team. Each week there's a different project manager, and everyone has to work for them, and they're competing against another team in a challenge. And the goal is to raise as much money as possible for your charity or whatever it is. And then at the end, you have to go to the boardroom and sort of answer questions from Trump, and he would decide who won. That team won. The other person, he would kick somebody off the show from it. And he had like Ivanka and what was it, Don Jr. or something with him. But when they did these episodes where they brought in like clients, they'd have the clients that would also come in and just basically shit on the celebrity. It was awesome because you get to see these celebrities get shit on, like, in a way that they never would in their real life. So that year, they were doing a viral video for Tide, and it was the new Tide that came out that was small and mighty. So it was the little tiny packets that are like super powerful. And Joan Rivers' team decided to use a bunch of midgets in the spot as like small and mighty. It did not go over well with the brand. They were just like so pissed that they used a bunch of midgets. Like, first of all, it's disrespectful to, like, little people, and like that's not what we want our brand. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and you do find out a little bit more. He's a lot smarter. Like, some of what you see on TV is an act. It's an act. That a little bit of that bravado. Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone in the chat wants to hit up Carlos at all for videography or stuff, he's at Freelancer Finance in the Twitter. You got anything?
I'm not a videographer, though. Those days are over.
Well, if you got anything film related and you got some money, he's not going to be cheap, but if you want him, he's in the description. You can check him out.
Oh man, can you share the screen real quick? This, believe it or not, was probably one of the funniest interactions with Trump.
You want to hear something about this?
Obviously, we all know about.
Yeah.
Before you play this, a lot of people say that this was the moment that made him decide to run.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was this moment when he was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
This was hysterical, though.
Credentials and breadth of experience. For example, no, seriously, just recently in an episode of Celebrity Apprentice at the steakhouse, the men's cooking team did not impress the judges from Omaha Steaks. And there was a lot of blame to go around, but you, Mr. Trump, recognized that the real problem was a lack of leadership. And so ultimately you didn't blame Little John or Meatloaf. You fired Gary Busey.
I remember that. Oh, I remember that.
These are the kind of decisions that would keep me up.
That was so freaking hilarious. When he said it.
Cold-blooded.
Yeah.
I miss Obama too. Like wouldn't it be awesome if you could have two presidents, like have Obama and Trump, and they have to fight it out to like win? Like it'd be just kind of awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I would say Obama was, believe it or not, you know who was a really good president that not a lot of people give credit to? George Bush. Like the second George Bush. Yeah. Second George Bush was actually a really good president. I think a lot of people thought that he was just some dumb guy. But he wasn't dumb. You know, he knew what he was talking about. And if you look at President Obama, like some of the documentaries that I've seen, even Obama says like the transition between the George Bush White House during the crisis to President Obama was probably one of the best ones that he's, that you could have ever had. The continuity of the US government is probably one of the most like crazy things that tends to happen. And in that, I think President Bush made a lot of good calls when he was president, especially during the financial crisis. But yeah, I don't know. In terms of who's your favorite president for you guys, who's your favorite?
I've only had to experience Bush, Obama, and Trump, really, and barely Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And Biden, I guess now.
I don't know if I would say I'd like to have a favorite president, because like the guy that you like isn't necessarily always the most effective. A lot of bad things happened on Obama's watch, even though he sounded great. And that's a lot of what got Biden elected, is how he spoke. But if you really just look at what he's done and you attribute it, that if you connect it to it, you just say, I can't get behind the guy. So I haven't really been invested much in the presidential elections, because to be honest, they don't really have any power.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, they don't.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing presidents could do is Supreme Court, bro. Those justices last a lifetime. That shit is legit. Like the reason we have this abortion ban, bro. Like if we didn't have Amy, Brett, and Neil Gorsuch, we would not have this abortion shit happening.
Right? I mean,
actually, no, he's right, because in the 80s, a bunch of Congress people figured out that they could stay in power elected forever if they never actually legislate and just kick everything to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And so what they would do is, instead of running on a platform, they would run on, if you vote for me, I'll vote conservative judges to the board. I'll vote liberal judges to the board.
And it's supposed to be apolitical. And they never, they're like, nope, I will put a conservative person on the board. Or
yeah, for me, believe it or not, for me, I think my favorite president was probably Trump, because I try to like put the man into two lenses, right? Where do I like him as a person? Do I, would I have a beer with him? Probably not. But would I go to the strip club with him? Probably. He's one of those guys.
Kim Jong-un and Dennis Rodman. What a
I would love it, dude. I would love it.
Of character.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of the policies, both economic and foreign policies, they were good policies, and he put a lot of heavy hitters in his cabinet that did an amazing job of just managing everything. So, I think that's one of the weaknesses that you have with President Biden right now, where a lot of the people that he's put in charge are like political appointees that are really just not doing their jobs. Like, look at Buttigieg. Buttigieg is terrible right now.
Did you just call him Booty Judge?
No, I called him Buttigieg. Like he's supposed to be. Buttigieg is a terrible pick. Like Kamala Harris. Awful. God, I don't even know what she does. It's like, so these are the kinds of things that I'm just like a little bit disappointed. Hopefully they have someone who's youthful.
Kamala Harris was kind of like that joke that Carlos Mencia had about, if you want to make sure you, like, as a president, you never get assassinated, have a Mexican vice president, because if you kill me, then that Mexican's gonna give him all the power. It's kind of like nobody wants to mess with Kamala, so Biden's fine.
Yeah. There was a really funny AOC joke. I gotta find it. I think Krista Stefano.
AOC, just look at her Twitter. It's hysterical. Did you see how she got called out recently? She had a shadow account.
Yeah. She was
had
saying
another account.
Wild
she was
shit.
tweeting from it, and she was like talking from.
Bro, all these politicians have burner accounts, and they say whatever the fuck they really want to say on them.
Yeah, she was. That was like they caught her out there trashing Elon Musk, and then they found her Tesla parked in the handicap spot with Congress plates on it outside.
She has a
like
Tesla.
Yeah, she was driving a Tesla while she was talking shit about Elon Musk.
Oh my god,
it's like
bro.
that level. It's so funny.
Bro, the older I get, the more I hate hypocrisy so much. Like I just hate it so much because it's just like you got to have some level of like chutzpah, as the Jewish people would call it, in terms of like your dignity. And it's like
that's why I don't really associate with any political party. It's really hard because people try to put you in a category. I just don't do it. They're not sports teams. It's like issue by issue. Like I respected like a lot of what Andrew Yang would have to say, or at the time, even Bernie Sanders at the time, just issue by issue. I think people use like supporting certain politicians as like a shortcut to actually researching a position.
That's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And I used to be super ideological about parties, and I think some of my friends still are from college and high school. I'm like, y'all are fucking losers, bro. Y'all are like, y'all really gonna assign yourself to being a Democrat or Republican versus think for yourself. Like, it's sad that you don't just think.
Do you care who gets into? Okay, do you care who gets in power? Like, say you could have a president that would do everything that you would want on a social level, but the markets would tank because it's not good for markets or companies that you're.
Well, this is the reason I haven't been a fan of Trump, bro. Because like I'm more liberal when I lead to social stuff, and like the Supreme Court shit is like big for me, and I'm just like, Trump's gonna put some hard right wing motherfuckers that are just gonna like. What
Supreme Court decision affects you personally?
Not personally, but like the abortion stuff. I think women should have the right to choose, right? That's my personal opinion, and like that shit makes it really tough for women. And I'm just imagining one day like. I also had a personal experience where I was with a girl once, and if abortion wasn't legal in Jersey, she didn't get one, but like it was close to that, right? And so like
there'd be a little amity legitty.
So it was a junior year of high school. I was fucking scared as shit for like a good month and a half. So, I mean, that's one example, but the social stuff. But I love the financial shit. I hate the financial shit of Bernie, but I also love the social shit of like most Democrats versus Trump.
See, the one that a lot of people don't take into consideration, which I think was a huge mistake, is Citizens United, where this nonsense with companies being considered entities that can do their own thing. With that brought so much dark money into the political system, where now you can just have these super PACs that are literally supporting and keeping incumbents in power, and you're making politicians dance to keep themselves in power. So I think that was a terrible move by the Supreme Court. Can you share the screen thing? Amit, 1 second.
Yeah, and then I want to watch Elon Musk trash.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Right that was so. I didn't get to finish it. Also,
I said if I was President Joe Biden, the first thing I would have did is made AOC the head of the CIA, because nobody looks through phones like Latina women. That's what I said.
It's true.
And then this guy Ryan, this dumb white piece of shit, Ryan, this guy started tweeting at me. He was like, "You're racist. How could you say that?" I'm like, "Say what? The truth?" I mean, if you really cared about national security, you would have the CIA be made up 100% of Latina women, and then you get them into relationships with suspected terrorists. Those terrorists would get away with zero, okay? Zero. It's not going to happen, Papi. Trust me. I know, okay? She has microphones in my shoelaces right now.
Bro, but see, this is the thing. Trump would say this shit, and like only comedians can get away with saying this shit, right? But Trump would say the exact same shit, and then people kind of like him for it because it's the truth, right? That's why comedy is funny.
That's part of what it is when people just like say the truth. It's like we all know it, right? Say the thing, say the quiet part out loud. It's like what he said is actually true. Like my mother could guard the border just with her sandals. Like she would, no one's getting through. She'll be sniping.
Wait, Carlos, you're married to a Latina woman right now?
Colombian, yeah.
Is she like that? The guy he's describing? She will like overly look through your phone, all that shit?
No. She's not like that. But she's definitely like what they would call feisty, or like spicy. She's a very.
Do you have an example of when you were like, "Oh, this woman is feisty," like she did something?
I mean, it's just the way that she'll defend her positions, or the way that she will fight for what she wants.
Right? If
she wants something, it's not always the best, of course. Sometimes it does lead to disagreements, but at the end of the day, she's really strong-willed, right? She's a really strong-willed person. Sometimes to a detriment. Like I don't always necessarily want that in.
I'm sure no guy always. There's a bunch of people that want that.
Huh?
I'm sure a bunch of guys don't want their woman to constantly, be like that. But
No,
it is what it is.
that's the whole the Andrew Tate movement thing, that there aren't traditional women in that sense that are like raised to be wives.
Right.
Traditional wives in that sense. All right, let's get to Elon smacking down.
All right. So this is, do you want to pause it in between? All right. So tell me when to pause and I'll pause. And so for this is context, last night. So I was watching the Lakers game last night, right? I was doing work. I had the Lakers game illegally streaming on my laptop. They made the playoffs, which is awesome. There's this easy website to illegally watch this shit, but the internet is just amazing, bro. Like you just easily find the shit. And then I hear Elon's doing a Twitter Spaces. And so I pop in and it's kind of boring for the first 15 minutes. Then it gets to the point where the BBC reporter tries to clap at him, tries to be like, yo, you fucking ruined this platform. There's all this hate speech. And then Elon's like, hold on, wait a second.
But
what are you talking
if you watch it, all Elon did, this is what happened. A lot of these people are used to talking in echo chambers, and all Elon did, it's really funny how you can dismantle a lot of this just by asking very specific questions. So he's just going to ask him, like, give me examples, right? And then you'll see that the whole argument falls apart. And it was great. He actually did get angry here.
Yep, it was great.
Or hateful. What do you mean to
Raise it
describe
up.
a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that.
Actually, let me share a better audio version of it.
That link that I sent you earlier today.
You sent me one?
Yeah, the one that I sent
By the
you.
way, guys, the reason why we talk about politics is because a lot of politics influences people's finance and things anyway. I know that it's always like, why are you guys talking about politics? Well, depending on who's in charge politically, it can negatively or positively impact markets. There's actually going to be decisions made at the political level that can impact things. An example is the TikTok ban. Like, this is something that should be factored into your thesis when you're investing. It shouldn't just be, well, the numbers look good for this company. Like, look for legislation that could benefit or negatively impact your company. Like, all the companies that we've spoken about, half of them are at the whim of the government moving the way that we want to. Like, here's an example: Enphase and Tesla. Tomorrow, let's say, like, the government comes out and just says, you know what, we're going to stop putting credits on electric cars. What would that happen to Tesla? Right? They would be negatively impacted. So I think a lot of times when we talk about things that may seem outside of the relevant finance space, it's because we want to get people to appreciate the other end of things. Like, how are political leaders, how are political parties going to influence finances and the finance of the companies? So just an FYI.
Yeah. Also, it's meant to have a little bit of fun because we're not fucking CNN here, so we're talking the shit while also analyzing.
Well, the other part of it is like Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, right? So he's like, you could say, arguably, like the most at this point, the most successful man. It's nice to just sit down and listen to the guy talk. I like watching interviews. Like I really enjoyed. I watched the entire interview with Lex Friedman and Mark Zuckerberg, even though I don't like the guy. It's like, you should try to get to know these guys as much as you can on a personal level. Like, these are the guys. And we touched on this the other day, that markets, as much as they are technical and intellectual, they are really emotional. And it's nice to just take the temperature of some of these people, because they move billions and trillions of dollars. Yes.
Now, look who missed the podcast so much that they are joining from their car.
Get out. He couldn't handle us laughing without
him.
What's up, guys?
Vitaly's on autopilot right now. Just driving, just talking smack. He's got us on YouTube.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Why'd you join the podcast?
224 people can hear you right now.
Well, yeah, I saw the numbers dropping. Someone had to fucking fix it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And of course, the first second I get on, or I turn on just as I'm leaving work, Chris is talking. It's like 99% of the time you can get money on it that Chris would be talking about something. You know what I'm saying?
Someone's gonna break down an episode and see what percentage is talking. Who's talking?
Right. Chris, we figured it out.
A good amount too, Vitaly. Come on,
I know, but I think Chris is Chamath. I figured it out.
Don't put me in the same fucking basket as that fool, bro. Nah, the one thing I'm not is a shady Indian dude that's gonna steal your money.
Or a billionaire.
Or a billionaire, yeah.
Vitaly, I feel like you missed us so much. That's why because you didn't have to join.
100%.
I feel like you missed us, so that's why you're here.
Well, I'm getting off in a couple of minutes. I'm just stuck in traffic. So what's going on? I heard Enphase and Tesla as soon as I joined. You guys obviously have not changed.
Like, yo, someone's talking shit about my Enphase. Oh, cut a bitch.
All right, well,
switch Chris and Vitaly if you're gonna keep them.
But yeah, Vitaly, we're gonna react to this this Elon thing, so you can share your thoughts as we pause it in between. All right, here we go.
We have spoken to people who have been sacked that used to be in content moderation, and we've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
What
something
hate
that you want
speech are
to
you talking
address?
about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
You see a rise in hate speech.
I mean,
Just a personal anecdote. Do you? I don't.
Personally, my for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally, but I'm not going to talk to the rest for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally.
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful. What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content.
This is the first part where I think he starts fucking up because he can't give an example for the slightly.
Well, he's reeling him in. He's actually pressing him for details, because a lot of times they'll talk on these like high level platitudes, but he already got him. He said, BBC guy says, I personally have seen more hate speech. So he's asking him to just drill down, define these things. This is a lot of when you start asking for definitions of things, that's when the guy, this BBC guy's on his roller skates right now. He wants to get the hell out of that chair.
Vitaly, you got something?
Well, I mean, the guy's obviously a fool. First of all, if you listen more, I did hear this earlier.
So good.
Didn't he say, I just started on Twitter 6 months ago? Like some stupid thing like that. So, yeah, he has no information. He has no facts. And Elon called him out on it. But also,
he also says, he's like, I personally, and he said it, I personally have seen more hate speech since you've been on. And then when Elon presses him on it, he goes, well, but because of the hate speech, I haven't used it in a while. And he's like, well, then how does that work? Like,
yeah, he said 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago. What the fuck are you talking about 6 weeks ago?
You can't come up with one.
And if you haven't been a member for like literally 7-10 years, you don't know how it's transitioned from one thing to another. That's the other thing. Like, how do you know that there wasn't a lot of hate speech back before you joined?
But I saw a lot more hate speech once Trump ran for the nomination. Like when things happen in the external, it fires people up, and they just go there. They just go to Facebook, they go to Instagram, they go to Twitter to express what they feel. It's not the platform's fault.
I saw a lot more hate speech after the 2016 election, because what happened was it almost became normalized to attack Trump. And so the other side would then attack other people. So it almost became like a contentious thing where it's like, if they're allowed to attack people, I should be allowed to attack people. And then we just became this devolved society. And yeah, I would say that society as a whole, we've gone a lot more confrontational than we were in the past. And Twitter seems to be that platform that allowed it. The difference was that conservatives would typically get silented and also put on like shadow bans, whereas the liberals were allowed to have a voice. And I think that was the main thing that Elon said, like, look, I'm not opposed to, trying to at least curtail some level of hate speech, but you can't make it so that one side can say whatever they want. The other side gets to say nothing in return. So.
The Trump thing. The Trump thing in 2016. Remember, we started following all of this very closely. But in 2020, in Twitter, literally, I shut off all those accounts. So I blocked all those accounts that were all the Democrats for the most part. And now I don't have hate speech. I mostly have engineering, filmmaking, and finance. That's it. That's all on my Twitter, because you get to control your feed. If you want to see hate, you see hate. If you don't want to see it, you don't see that.
I split it up into like 3 separate accounts now. So I have like a personal account that will curate certain things that I'm interested in, and then like maybe one for like music, one for like whatever it is. I just split them up so that I can control which group I want to hang with. It's like operating in certain cliques, right? You just want to hear some stuff, because I don't want to not be aware.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with this BBC thing is like hate speech is such a bad argument, because like who gets to define it, and just throwing it, like there's hate speech. And so Elon gets an easy layup. He's like,
this is what he's going to ask him next, to define hate speech. And then he calls BBC out on like, misinformation.
Content. And I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore, because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
and
said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
following.
You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see that hateful content?
Because I've been using it. I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content.
Bro, calling him sir was the best. Is like, sir, you are a fucking idiot.
Right, that's like cleaning the knife before you stick it in. You know?
Yeah, because look, he's stuck in a bad spot because he's lying if he can't name an example, or he's either can't name an example, which is bad, or you're lying because you're saying you're not even using the feed that facilitates you to be able to see the example, which means you're just making up this idea that there's hate speech. So Elon catches him in a good spot, and then the guy has no response.
I don't know if you guys watch UFC at all, but there was a really famous fight a few years back when Ronda Rousey first fought Holly Holmes. And first round 1, she gets hit with a jab, and you see this look on her face that she's never been hit that hard in her life. And you immediately knew that first punch that she was going to lose the fight. Anyone that's watched that fight will know what I'm talking about. And this is the same sort of thing with this guy. You can tell he's just never been challenged on that. He's never been asked that question.
And it shows the arrogance of mainstream legacy media, because they didn't even feel like they would get challenged. It's like you're talking to one of the richest men on the planet. You don't think he would defend his acquisition by making a basic argument towards you about an example?
Yeah.
And it was sad.
I think that a lot of modern journalism is turning into these snippets of gotcha moments. Like all of them are just trying to get this gotcha out of people, whether it was Trump or Biden or this news press secretary. Every reporter is just like asking you a double entendre question so that this way they could trap you into saying something. And I love the fact that he was able to turn the whole thing around and just reverse. What is there, a fucking reverse Uno card on his ass?
Yeah. And the dude got about 12,000 followers overnight. You know how fucking hard it is to get 12,000 people to know who you are. Like his brand just went up. People will forget about this moment. He'll be able to do more, but you could have probably got 30,000 followers if you gave Elon a good interview, but you got this horrible moment where you got all this attention and now people know you as the guy that can't.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal. I don't think, especially like the young generation today, I don't think they will fully appreciate this moment right now. Like just imagine the world if Elon didn't purchase Twitter, the things that we wouldn't be made aware of that would just go under the radar. This is kind of like, this reminds me a lot of like when I was young, when I was around your guys, your age, Amit, with 9/11 Commission report, when we found out that it was all basically a scam, right? We lived years before this stuff came out, and you just realize like that for me was the moment where you go, oh man, these people are fallible, right? They do just straight up lie to us. Like a lot of the politics that are at play in school and at work are actually at play in our government, but the stakes are way higher, you know.
My respect for Elon has gone up immensely for him to spend the $44 billion and just buy this shit and like actually allow free speech at scale. Like I used to be afraid to type in the words COVID on Twitter. Just like if
we couldn't say it, we couldn't say it. You couldn't say it. We or like there's just all this stuff, and we take for granted, like, oh, I can't say this in a YouTube video, but it's like, why not?
Yeah,
you know. And it only takes one generation to be born without certain rights to never want them in the first place.
Yeah,
and so
a hell of a point.
It's well said. That was well said. Very well said.
And tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well.
That's a false.
No, what I claimed,
you just lied.
What I claim was there are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not, I mean, right, and
literally
if you look at something
one.
Like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking.
That part was hilarious. He pulls up some random organization no one's ever heard of in the UK, and Elon's like, "Get the fuck!" He's like, "What are you talking about?"
It's like, well, my mom said. It's like, hell
Aunt
outta here.
Sandy down the beach said that there's hate speech. Like what?
Well, see, here's the thing. He started off by saying, I have seen more hate speech. And then he backtracked now and says, well, other organizations. Be like, which one is it? Is it I? Or like, if this was a court case, this dude just lost. Like, literally, he just lost completely. You know?
For a
Right.
single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
Well, then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know this hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation.
We're going to
always the
continue, but by the way, they had an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So Elon gave them a fucking 90. That's a long time, 90 minutes. And he's like, come on, bro.
The one
He
experience
just wants out. He wants out of there.
the one experience that I would say I've had with modern media is if you're going to do something, make sure you record the entire thing yourself, because you don't want to have an hour and a half interview where it's nuanced and they take a very small snippet of something that you said way out of context and put it out there. Because a lot of these media outlets, that's what they do. They only put in the very small snippet and then make you look like a piece of shit, where you actually have a lot of nuance to it. Like the other night it happened where I was talking about the CCP, like how they're a piece of shit for like repressing their thing. And people were like, oh, you hate the Chinese people. It's like, no, I had to put into context, correct people, saying, no, it's the CCP that are doing this oppressive shit. I'm not talking about the Chinese people. And then even though I said that,
Amit
there was someone
edited
in
you
the
that
comment
way
section.
for the shorts.
No, but even in the comments section.
He was like, sorry, Chris, but we need the clicks, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said, fuck it. Look at this engagement.
I actually didn't even edit that part. But no, but Chris, you're right about that. And the good thing is this was on Spaces, so 600,000 people were listening. They had all
3
the
million. 3 million.
Okay, so there's actually
Yeah.
a bug. So apparently, if you logged out and then logged back into the space, they counted you as a new person. Apparently, I heard that was a bug. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I heard that was a bug. But regardless, there's a lot of people.
I just saw 3.2 million people. I was like, man, that is freaking influence. That is reach.
That's insane. Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that I think, like, I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but I think like an elected politician, like say an AOC, should have to do quarterly like earnings report.
Hell yeah.
Like every quarter, they should have to sit down like this live and sit down and talk to someone.
They don't do shit every 90 days, so they have nothing to update.
Just sit there and tell me what you said you're gonna do. What did you do to do it? And if they say like, well, it was the Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, bring her on the show and lash it out. You know, have it.
I agree, dude. Every 90 days, I think politicians should have to do like an earnings conference call where literally their constituents would get to call in and ask them questions, right? Yeah. That would be so freaking
because
cool.
the pressure of being a public CEO is you got to perform every 90 days, rain or shine. And as a politician, you can, for 6 years, I think in Congress, that's the term limit. You don't have to do shit.
You're up for election every 2 years. Yeah,
and that's how you can get a lot of and that's how you can get a lot of these freaking old politicians out, dude. Like the ones that are like have been in Congress since goddamn like my grandmother. You know, it's like, come on, like Dianne Feinstein. She's been in Congress since like I think
since the world was black and white. Seriously,
yeah,
color.
And that's the person that you want making legislative decisions. Nah, dude. No.
Like imagine they could get Pelosi to be grilled, or like not grilled, but like interviewed, or a question asked by like the Pelosi stock tracker.
Dude, that's the one politician.
She bought calls on Apple the other day for some reason.
Yeah,
she bought leaps.
Yeah, I believe so. On Apple. I'm gonna pull it up.
There was that website that what was that? What was that I sent you that tracks it? It's like they made
Pelosi
like
tracker. It's on Twitter.
No, it's not that. It's a website that like basically made like a fictitious ETF. So you could track like all of their portfolios.
Autopilot? Is that the one you're talking about?
I don't know. I sent it's in our chat somewhere.
Okay, let's finish the COVID stuff and then we'll get to that.
You changed the COVID misinformation.
Has BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. They used to
You heard the Windows crash sound?
Yep. Then disappeared. Why do that?
Okay, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, so... you thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. You want to talk about the BBC? All right, let's talk about something else.
You weren't expecting that.
Let's talk about something else.
Bro, this is the world's richest man having the most fucking fun being the world's richest man. He's literally making a joke about BBC. We know what the other version of BBC means. He's made a couple tweets about like, you know what I mean? Like he's just having so much fun being him, and he's under the most amount of pressure one could imagine trying to get this thing to break even. And he's toying with this BBC reporter. I mean, it's just fascinating to be alive and see this happen.
But he's having a good time. I mean, look, you're running your own startup right now. It's a lot of pressure, but would you consider it like the bad kind of pressure?
Bro, it's there have been moments where, so there's this window on my 3rd floor office at my studio, and every day I look out the window and look how far down below the fall is, if you know what I mean. Like that's the type of pressure, and it's tough. You raise money, you got to perform, you got to figure shit out, you hit a brick wall, you try to do different things. However, just try to land on Chris's wallet. You'll be fine. On Chris's wallet, yeah, you'll be fine. But however, you never jump, because at the end of the day, you're like, holy shit, I have an opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to win or fail, but I have a fucking opportunity to actually go for it and like really do something. So it's the best pressure in the world, even though it's tough. And so imagine Elon with 5 companies, 2 of them multi-billion-dollar companies, one of them with millions of public shareholders constantly yapping at him every day. Like that pressure must be insane. And he's having fun with this BBC reporter about free speech and COVID misinformation, because he's just like he's one of the most amazing entrepreneurs that just can play it chill underneath all that pressure and like still perform and get results.
I also think he does. I don't know. I wouldn't even say he does a good job, but I think he, Macho Man fighting an infant. It is true. Go chasing waterfalls. I think he comes off really authentic. Like it seems like that's the Elon that you would see in private. This is some of the issues that I have with some of the other CEOs that we watch. This is what I like about, I'm like, what's his name? Noto, right? Even though like I might not, but like to think that the company's gonna do the best over the next couple of years. I just have a real respect for the man himself, right? Or a guy like Badri, and this is what I don't like about someone like Karp. We don't have to get into it, but this is what I don't like about someone like Karp. I don't see him as genuine. And I think it's just nice. It's just nice to see him shooting the shit with this guy and just absolutely tearing him down.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue Karp is actually pretty genuine as well, but he's not like as genuine as Elon.
No, man. I mean, Karp says one thing and does another. Like he's always like, "Oh yeah."
You think that the Karp on those? You think that the weird, itchy, scratchy?
I think that's him, bro. I think that's him.
You think that's him? I don't know.
I definitely think that's him.
No, I think it's way more.
Sorry, dude. Until he starts buying some shares, I don't think he's aligned with shareholders. Come on, bro. You got billions in the bank now, and you can't throw a little bit at an undervalued. Like imagine a CEO comes out and says, "Our stock is really undervalued." Okay, so buy some stock. I can't. Why? Why can't you buy some stock?
I only have a few billion.
Yeah. Come on.
Look, I agree. They should be buying shares as well.
Or buybacks. It's something, anything.
Think about it this way. Look at what Elon did during Tesla's problem days. He said, look, I am not going to take a salary until Tesla makes X, Y, and Z in terms of stock price and makes this much money. And he set a hard limit. Had Tesla gone broke, he would have gone broke too. Like it wasn't one of those situations where, like Karp, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get RSUs that are just going to be banking on the side. Anytime a CEO puts that's the other thing that's respectable about Noto. Noto has put his own money on the line, and at the same time has set performance standards for himself to a stock price where it's aligned with shareholders. So if you were asking me, like Chris, if you had to invest in SoFi or Palantir, which one would you do? Hands down, it would be SoFi, because the CEO has proper alignment with his shareholders. Karp, on the other hand, every time I look at FinWiz or I look at the insider reports that come out for Palantir, insider sells this many millions of shares.
Didn't we? I think I sent it to you guys. Like after like that fight that we had about Palantir a couple weeks back, I looked at Yahoo.
The Reddit
pull it
post?
up right now. Pull it up right now. Go to Yahoo Finance. Go to Insider Trading. It is nothing but sells. And then look at a company like Enphase. Look at Enovix. Like that says more than anything, because that's like money talks, man. If you're selling out of your own company while you're telling me to buy it, nah, man.
No, it's fair. It's a fair point. Same reason I don't like Ginkgo. Jason Kelly's been selling way too many shares. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not
You know what they say, right? There's a lot of reasons why CEOs sell, but there's only one reason why they buy. So just remember that.
Oh, that's a good one. That's got to be on a bumper sticker somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you think Elon strategically was ready for this BBC interview, knowing he was going to push back, or do you think it was in the heat of the moment Elon just decided?
It's kind of
No,
like
he knew.
He, of course he knew, but it's also like when you're really researched on something, you don't need much preparation. I'm sure you've had that where like you've studied debate. If there's something you really know a lot about, or like Chris, I don't see Chris sitting here researching every company. You just ask him about SLG or whatever, and he just starts talking because it's something he knows about. And now this is a guy who owns Twitter. He's literally been sleeping there. This is all he thinks about all day.
Yeah. When you have a thesis, you have like some level of connection to it. You're always researching. You're always trying to figure things out. You're trying to look for the angles, whether they be good angles or bad angles. And yeah, if you have confidence, you don't have to like second guess yourself. But here's the thing. With Elon, he already knows the media's after him. He knows like this isn't his first rodeo with the media trying to go after him. I mean, how many other you look at all these sensational headlines when it comes to Tesla, Trump, and Elon, it's always been in one side. So it's almost like you're giving them it's almost like you have to be confrontational the minute you sit down, because there's no way that he's going to give you a fair interview. And because of that, they're already like prepared for it. Like Elon knew right away. It's like, I am going to make sure that I'm very well versed in everything that he was going to, he pulled that thing from 8 Mile. Remember I spoke about it last time where he just put himself out there. It's like, go ahead, talk about it.
It points to the conspiracy theory for why Elon actually bought Twitter, which is
what is the juicy conspiracy?
There's two levels to it, and I think I've heard some stuff about this, but this is also my own logical deduction for why he bought it. The first one is that he knows the mainstream media will always be against him because they're bought by oil companies, so they're going to be shills for fossil fuels. So he needed to buy an asset that he had full control over. He was getting a lot of reach on Twitter, even when Jack Dorsey owned it, but he needed to make sure that would never go away. And so he needed to protect the reach, like literally have control over the algorithms to make sure that when humanity gets to a tipping point where fossil fuel companies cannot win, it has to be electric just because like the fate of humanity relies on it, that he would have the megaphone to access the masses, even if he had to manipulate the algorithm, which I would say if it's a life or death existential moment for humanity, like, yeah, that's actually a good idea that he has control of the algorithms. The second thing is to protect the interest of Tesla, because if at any moment Tesla had to advertise because they didn't have the sort of like magic that they had over the past decade, he needed a vehicle that could easily access the world without the algorithm censoring him for any other reason. So like one was to make sure his own brand and image was protected against the mainstream media. The other one was to make sure that Tesla was safe. And a $44 billion investment to protect a $10 trillion company that's not bad. It's pretty worth it. And then you get the free speech cherry on top as the narrative you get to paint.
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I also think that he saw the writing on the wall that it was only a matter of time before he himself would get banned.
Exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
He was going to cross the line somewhere because the line keeps moving, right? And so I think there's also a tremendous amount of FUD that's put out on Tesla. And there's no amount of advertising that you like. If people don't want it, he can't advertise his way out of that. But on Twitter, he just has a lot more reach. Like every tweet goes out to 110 million people or whatever it is. You don't get that on anything unless that's like Super Bowl numbers, like every tweet.
Okay, Matt Money says you lost me when he said oil companies own media companies. This I've heard there's legitimacy behind, like oil companies advertise on CNBC and NBC and CBS. Tesla doesn't advertise for any of them, right? Yeah. Like Ford, Honda, all these fucking companies that are legacy auto, they advertise on these blogs, and CNBC is a very big blog, 150 million people a month go to the website. Mm-hmm. Tesla doesn't give them any money. So at some level, that's why CNBC has always been so negative towards Tesla and really never been that negative to a lot of these legacy other in terms of the level of depth.
They can't. I mean, they actually can't. because then they pull advertising, and then your ability to make your TV show is gone.
Yeah, I was watching the NBA yesterday, and literally a Hyundai commercial goes up there. Like if the NBA came out and said we are explicitly against fossil fuel vehicles, those companies cannot advertise with the NBA because the NBA has philosophically aligned themselves to be against it.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, what I'm seeing now, I don't know if you guys have been seeing it. I'm seeing more commercials where they're actually featuring Teslas. Like I see this Hyundai commercial all the time. Like sometimes, I'll just click on an episode of even the Finance Junkies, and at the head of it is a commercial that's like Hyundai Ioniq or whatever, better range than the Model 3, and they got shots of the Tesla driving around. I'm like, you're selling Teslas like by doing this, because now people that don't know, right, the few people will research it and compare. So.
One of the things I hate, the disingenuous people that, like, I was listening to a podcast, right? And she was like, I love my Chevy Bolt. I drive it all the time. And I'm like, bitch, we all know you ain't driving no Chevy Bolt nowhere. Come on. Like, if you had a choice to, like, because it's Kara Swisher. I'll be honest, it's Kara Swisher. You think Kara Swisher is
the
like
most annoying woman in Silicon Valley?
Yo, dude, I only listened because I wanted to hear from one of the guests that she had on, right? But the entire time I was like, bro, she just sounds, what's her name? Something Sistani from Weight Watchers. So they did an interview about it. Seema Sistani from Weight Watchers. So I was listening to the thing, and like the first 5 minutes were just her like talking, and she sounds like such a like a bitch, dude. It was just horrible. I was listening to like a middle-aged white woman complain about like the most mundane things, and then she's like, well, now I'm going to talk about my Chevy Bolt, how I love my Chevy Bolt, and everywhere I go, I ride my Chevy Bolt. It's like, bitch, we know that this is where like the Dave Chappelle thing comes. Remember, Dave Chappelle's like, which one's better, Pepsi or Coke? It's like, Pepsi paid me last time, so they're better. Yeah. It's just, there's
business.
It's just business.
Yeah, and the more I get into the media business, bro, all of us getting into the media business, like, bro, if him sponsors us, we're gonna be like, yeah, erectile dysfunction is an issue, bro.
It works for me. Here's my wife coming in.
it's just like you make money off that shit.
I actually have a question. we usually take questions the last couple of minutes.
We have some questions, so I'll pull up a couple after you. Go ahead.
But I do have a question for everybody else. I have what 3 channels do you guys watch every day, and what do you think that we should subscribe to?
Or like, that's a good one.
What 3 channels do you watch every day that you think we should subscribe to and consume that content? That's something I'm curious about with all the people in here.
Put it in the chat. First question: what is your thought on the Alibaba post? Did you guys see SoftBank is selling their 20% stake in Alibaba?
No, I did not see that.
So apparently that got leaked. It's happening. Look, I think Alibaba's gonna be down tomorrow if it's really true. I'm gonna try to pull up the tweet, but it's not good for Alibaba, especially when they're this whole corporate restructuring they're trying to do. I thought that was actually bullish for them, but I guess not.
I look at some CNBC contributors. Some of them actually have some valid points. Like CNBC is really good for bringing in a lot of different perspectives. But I've also noticed that some people have a affinity and a bias towards one specific type of industry. So I'm not a big fan of it, but there's a few that I really like. The one that I really like is Cameron Dawes. She's really good. By the way, Gavin blocked me.
He's like a pretty big source for finance news, right? 281,000 followers.
He blocked you?
Yeah.
What did you say to him?
So he was talking about I think
he said I shorted everything you
No.
I short the shit out of it.
He said something like I think it's like Pepsi's in the NASDAQ or some shit like that. So I read, bro, like get the hell, like I said something offensive. I'm not gonna lie, I was trolling him, the entire time. So he blocked me. It was,
I said, what do you think? This could be a controversial thing. I don't think you should be allowed to block people.
I think
I disagree. There's a dude.
You cannot block people on YouTube.
No, bro, there's a dude on Twitter.
Cannot remove a subscriber.
There's a dude that's been harassing me, and now Chris knows who he is on Twitter. Constant. It gets to the point where it's like I ignore most of that shit, bro. I'm very thick-skinned, but at some level, I'm just like, bro, I just don't want to see this anymore. And
so, I had to do that too because a lot of like when I brought up, and I still think I bring up some valid criticisms regarding Palantir. So then what happens is any comment that I make would always devolve into, oh, you're a Palantir bear. I hate you. You're a Palantir. So I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm just going to block you now. It's just, it's better for you and it's better for me.
But I don't block easily. Like, I agree with you, Carlos. I'm not trying to censor opinions. Like Puru, I said some shit to Puru because he was flip-flopping between ARK and all this shit. Puru Saxena. And he blocked me. And I'm just like, bro, you're the one who like flipped out of growth into like 17,000 times. You're gonna get a little bit of pushback as a public figure.
Yeah.
I just don't think it should be allowed on Twitter.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like
or it
I'm in
should
the same
last
boat
6
as
months and then
yeah.
clear itself. I think maybe it's more like a timeout. Sorry.
I'm with Amit on this one. I just think that some people, they're gonna take it to the next level, and the only way that you're gonna be able to have some peace of mind is that. And there's also stalkers too. Like, Amit, you remember the guy who was on YouTube? I mean, it was.
Oh, there's a naked Nazi. Like when I mean naked, I mean, he was just covering his dick, but he would record in the like, bro, these videos are like 100, 200 views, but he was coming after me, coming after a bunch of finance YouTubers. He was a Palantir bull though, so it was so weird. It was like
he was a bull with one horn.
But Carlos, he used to give a shit ton in like donations on the
yes, bro,
on the
videos. Like hundreds of dollars.
Oh, he was trying to buy influence. Somebody asked how politics affects our life. That's what it was. They were just doing a little payment on the side.
Let's pull up this comment, this question from Create Pact Podcast.
I really like some of these. There's some of these channels I haven't heard of here.
Hold on, where is this question? He said, okay, basically, Chris, the question is, outside of investing, how does politics? Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I'm just referring to that.
Why is politics important? Just to talk about, I guess.
Because when you think about like the decisions that are made at the legislative level, they can heavily influence like finance. So here's an example: the TikTok ban. Who benefits from the TikTok ban? Google and Meta. So the minute that the TikTok ban legislation went into effect, well, it didn't go into effect, but people started talking about that. Automatically, people were like, well, guess what? I need to gravitate towards the platforms that are going to benefit the most. So if you keep a track of the legislation, you can see that. Here's another one. The expiration for the Tesla credit is ending in March 31st, right? Because of something along the lines of like battery manufacturing has to be done in the US and like certain components. So now if you look at it from the other angle, it's like, wait a second. So who are the battery manufacturers in the US? Who are the lithium suppliers in the US that get Tesla? Because Elon Musk is going to be motivated to make sure that that tax credit stays on. So what is he going to do? Well, he's going to be sourcing locally. So which companies is he sourcing from? Buy those companies before everyone else wakes up to the idea.
You also have a bit of a revolving door between Congress and like board of directors for insane banking. That's huge, and also in pharma. So if you're interested in either of those, say somebody from the Pfizer board gets nominated to a position in the government, it's a pretty safe bet to know that like they're going to get some favorable legislation. Let's just say.
Yeah. So here's another one that like affected me. Like my decision in SLG has actually related to some of the things that are happening on the politics side. So the mayor, the governor, and New York City and New York State are aligned in that they need to create more affordable housing. SLG has a ton of partnerships with all these buildings in New York City. Now, one of the things that people are doing is actually thinking about converting from commercial office buildings to residentials. So when you think about it, it's like, wait a second. So who owns all the office buildings that could possibly convert? And actually, how does that play into their larger business model? So these are the kinds of things that if you look at it, if you get ahead of the legislation, you make a ton of money when the legislation actually comes through and happens, right? So that's what it is. The other thing is, this tweet today. Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, believe it or not,
That guy is the devil,
bro. Here's the thing: people think President Biden is the one in charge of the free world. No, it's Larry Fink. Larry Fink controls more.
Larry. Yeah, exactly. This is what I meant. This is what I meant when I'm like, the president doesn't really matter. Like, there's so many documentaries on that guy, and he really is running it. Like literally every company. He's like 5% of the entire. What is it, like 21 trillion or something in assets around the world?
I think between 10 trillion. I think last time I checked, between 10 trillion officially, but I'm guessing that he's probably got influence over way more than that.
Right.
And the way that it works is that BlackRock takes money from pension funds, from all sorts of things, and then uses the money to invest in companies. And then what happens is the companies get board seats. The board seats get assigned to BlackRock. And so BlackRock makes a decision. Everyone almost has to follow the decision because they're part of the board. So right now, Larry Fink comes out and says, hey, listen, remote working is not working. We need to get back into the office. Maybe because BlackRock has commercial interest, real estate interest, whatever.
Probably.
But the minute he says this, now everyone who he controls via the board of directors now is going to be pushing their companies, their respective companies, to get their workers back into the office. So guess what happens?
But that's how it works. Like that's how it works. And it's you won't see that in mainstream media. And so this is just like, it gives you an edge, right? If you understand that, like, politics, and I mean, we basically have a corporate politocracy, you could say, in this country. You know?
So you're saying Larry Fink's going to tell the companies he owns to get their workers back into office because it's better for productivity, which will help the stock prices eventually, which will make him
that's what he'll say. But the real reason is because he has interests in, say, commercial real estate, or like businesses that are suffering from the lack of traffic, right? So if you own 5 to 7% of every company, it's not 20-50%, but it's enough that if he sells out of that position, it's going to tank the stock. You know?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, everyone right now, you are putting your money with companies like BlackRock, whether you want to believe it or not. Like, if you just keep your money, like, let's say you're in New York City and you have your pension, right? Your pension invests with BlackRock in index funds. Like, these guys like Strongman Personal Finance, they're like, oh, buy the index fund, buy VU. Okay, go ahead, buy it. Vanguard. Who do you think is in charge of Vanguard? It's not Larry Fink, it's someone else. But they're basically, Vanguard now decides with those shares what is going to happen politically. A lot of companies, that's been one of the criticisms around the woke movement per se, is that these larger companies have an agenda, and they, through their portfolios, can make certain decisions and push companies into a certain direction. So it's almost like, oh, your ESG score is like this, we will make sure you get investment dollars in. If your ESG score is not good and it's actually below, we'll take money out. And so what happens is now the companies are kind of forced into the ESG thing to make sure that the investors are there. So BlackRock owns 16% of SLG, probably.
I was going to ask, how much do they own? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally own 5 to 7% of almost every stock. Like, let's look up any.
We got to do a deep dive on BlackRock one day, bro, because I don't know that much about them, but I do know they own.
Vitaly and I, we did a video on our channel a while back, and it didn't gain traction. I don't think people. It just
I'm about to link it right now in the chat.
So there's the three main ones. The three main ones you want to pay attention to are State Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard, because those are the ones that have their hands in everyone's butt, basically. You know, they're the puppet masters that are just like making the CEOs dance. You know. Now, here's the thing. The companies have operational control. Don't get me wrong. It's not like the companies are not going to act in the best interest of the shareholders. But who's a shareholder? BlackRock. So, of course, they're going to act in the interest of the shareholder. You know.
Bro, shareholder returns are like the two words that are like
that shareholder returns is like what justifies the most horrendous actions across, because they're, you know, under the guise of shareholder returns, right? They can just sort of justify anything. I mean, even if you look at like the military industrial complex, right? A lot of that is like they got to generate some wars because they got to make money. They don't actually give a shit about any of this spreading democracy around the world. That's one problem that I have with our company Palantir.
The one metric that I think a lot of people underappreciate that you guys should always look at is institutional ownership over the floating rate of the stock. If there is a high level of institutional ownership, you can you can bet that company is not going to go down as fast as a company that has low institutional investment in there, because those are the things that keep the stock rock hard, like, from going down, because these are not people that are going to be like at a whim selling off a whole bunch of shares or buying in a whole bunch of shares. Like, there are times
you just did a promo for HIMS.
Yeah, exactly. HIMS. Hook us up.
Right. And if you too want to be rock hard, use our promo code below.
Yeah.
I wonder what the promo code would be for him.
Start reaching out, bro. Come on, start reaching out to some advertisers. I'll shield.
That'll be a question to pose to everybody. What companies should we look for?
Bro, the problem is, look, 258 people is a fuckload, and I appreciate the hell out of it.
Seriously.
But if we go to an advertiser and like, hey, we have 258, well, we get like 3,000 after but I just don't think they would care that much.
The way that I would
fun mental exercise just to see.
The way that I would present it is get in early before this thing blows up. You know, because guess what? We're gaining traction. These are our metrics. Get in now, because later on, if you come to us, you're gonna have to pay way more.
Expensive.
So get in now.
You know, we're all gonna be pushing for hard dicks every episode.
Bro, if it means I'm
that
getting
is a
some
short
money,
right there. Done.
Yeah.
Just write themselves.
Bro, if they do 25,000, boom, we got it. You're like, look, I know it's a small audience, but they all have dicks that need to get hard eventually.
Yeah, 25K, man. I'll transition for that. I mean, I'll be Carla for a week. All right, guys, I'm like super busy. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, we gotta go. All right, thank you all for
Later,
being here.
guys.
We'll be
Love
back
you,
tomorrow
everybody.
night, 10 p.m. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.